and be like, guys, this is why I'm in a bad mood. And then I was like, not feeling as in a bad mood as I was earlier.
Just need to listen to us talk crap, and we'll be all right.
I basically like vented a bit earlier, and now I feel all right.
Yeah, wonderful.
Oh, sorry, you can still talk, Rob. Sorry.
Oh no! I'm being serious. Like I'm all right. Well, I'm still annoyed about some things, but I'm all right. But yeah, I was in a really bad mood yesterday, and I was in a really bad mood today. And then earlier on, I was like, I really can't be bothered with the call. But now I feel all right.
Now I've got the bad.
Yeah, basically, Alec got a cold, and it took all of the negative energy from me.
You're welcome.
I was about to say that's all right.
Now I've got into saying that.
That's all right. No need to thank. Oh God, I even sound a bit like you.
Yeah, it's that.
Uh,
It's the nasal thing. You've got it.
Robert, why did you pick this underrated masterpiece?
Sorry.
For that reason, essentially, because it's been on my list since we started. Because like, it's always been a bit of a favourite of mine since I saw it. So when I first saw it was back in the Love Film days. So obviously, like Love Film used to send out games and DVDs and whatever. And what I used to do is, so they had like this priority list, and so you'd put like games and whatever on it that you wanted to play at some point, and then they would just choose a random one and send you it. And I remember going through the games on there, and I had like probably about 50 on there. But as I was browsing through the games, I saw High Fidelity on there, and I read like the synopsis and whatever, and I was like, oh, that sounds really interesting. I'll put it on my list, and then when it comes, I'll watch it or whatever. And that was the next thing that came. And I remember doing what still is like my favorite thing to do. And it was like the middle of the day on a Saturday. And I drew my curtains and ordered a pizza. And I just sat here with my pizza and watched it. And then at the end of it, I was like, man, that's an amazing film. And that was probably just over 10 years ago. And as much as I loved it, in that 10 years, I don't think I've ever met anyone else who's watched it. So for that reason, it's always been on my list. The reason I love it is because the whole like setup where you've got these like three guys who sort of like they're all man children, and they're like the whole thing where like Rob hired them for 3 days a week and then they just started showing up indefinitely, and like that little thing, like the dynamic between them has like always reminded me a little bit of the dynamic between all of us. And then obviously like I watched it just before I met Alec for the first time. So for the duration of me knowing this film, I've always been like, oh, it's Barry. And,
Oh, that's great. I mean, I prefer Alec to Barry any day of the week. Barry,
in some cases, yes.
Barry's a good guy. He's just outspoken and abrasive.
And Alec.
But yeah, like
I'm
so
singing.
yeah.
Sorry.
That's all right. Yeah, no, it's always been a favorite of mine because I think like the comedy is really funny, and it's like it's the kind of things that you're laughing at the characters for are the kind of things that we laugh at each other for. So I've always really liked that. I think Rob's character is really compelling because he sort of starts like his start where he's talking about whether he listens to music because he's miserable, or if he's miserable because he listens to music. I've always thought is really interesting, and it's something that I've always like thought of myself, like sort of whether I listen to certain music because I'm a certain way, or if the music has made me a certain way. I think is an interesting thing to think about, and just his whole like his journey. I think is really interesting as well because he's like he's not irredeemable, but he's not a good guy at all. But the reason that he's not a good guy is because he doesn't understand how to be a good guy. And I think the way that he's like constantly talking to himself and coming to terms with things, like, I mean, like it's not sort of like slapping you around the face and going like, this guy is changing. But there's loads of like subtle things where he's reflecting and he's realizing what he's doing, and then because of that he becomes a better person by the end. I think that's a really nice thing. More so because of the way he does it, I suppose, because it's like what I was saying on the After Sun call about like making an effort to try and talk about things a bit more because it's something that I've never been very good at. So yeah, so seeing somebody kind of like reflecting out loud and coming to terms with like being a flawed person, I suppose is something that I've in a way looked up to, even though he doesn't end it as a perfect person either. But yeah, I just think it's a really nice little film.
So you said not reflecting this is something that you're not good at.
Well, more just like talking about things because like
yeah.
maybe it's an only child thing. I don't know because like you kind of get used to sort of being in your own head a lot. So I think a lot of the time, like I'll just sort of like think things through until I end up coming up with something that works for me. But yeah, I suppose if that comes at the expense of talking about things, is maybe not a good thing. So yeah, it's just sort of even though like Rob is kind of doing that, like just seeing him sort of like speak things through out loud, I think it's just something that's always been really, really compelling for me, I suppose.
I thought you were speaking in third person. Rob's working on it, and Rob feels better about the fact that Rob's talking about things.
But another thing as well is like for me, it's just like littered with moments that I'd consider like favorite scenes. Because there's so many little bits where I just think like the character writing is just like perfect. Like I was saying to Alec in the week, the conversation between Barry and Rob where they're talking about it's after Rob has spoken to Laura, and it's that conversation about how like they haven't slept together yet. And then he goes to Barry and he's like, if I'd have told you that I hadn't seen Evil Dead 2 yet, what would you think? And he's just like, well, I'd think you're a cinematic idiot. Like that always really reminds me of Alec and John. Because like one has approached the other with a hypothetical and then the other's taking it literally and they just can't get past it. And yeah, I just love that dynamic. But I also love that scene because it's like I was saying before, like it shows you sort of how immature both of them are because it's like yeah, it's like I was saying the other night, like it's that whole thing of like Rob doesn't understand that the way that he approaches women is the reason that he keeps getting hurt. So his reaction is to objectify it to the point that Barry responds in the way that he would respond to an object. And yeah, just loads of little things where I just think it's very cleverly written.
I mean, I mean, the writing for itself is actually very good, and I do understand why you like it. It's just because of the way it's written. Because this is going on a conversation that we've had beforehand about sad stories making you sad. It's a question of he was written in a way that makes me angry, and because it made me angry, I guess it's like I feel like the story was absolutely correct on his journey, his everything he does, but the things that he does to progress through his journey make him too irredeemable, if you understand what I mean. There's like certain things he does that make me go, you are an arsehole, right? But maybe you could have changed for a better person. Then he does one thing, then he does two things. We'll get into that a lot later. But he does two things, and we go, you don't deserve fucking Laura. This is how much that's how much of an arsehole you are. You don't deserve Laura. You're a piece of shit. But like it's
Who
like,
are you, Liz?
Well, I mean, what he does is quite okay. But no, seriously, he does do some quite irredeemable shit, right? And it's just like,
there's actually photos of them.
oh, Jesus Christ, man! It's like, well, you could have been so much better as a person. He was given multiple chances to be a good person. But I just think of like, man, if I had that many chances to be a good person and I failed pretty much all of them, I don't think I'll be a good person. I think if it took me that long just to realize, because the whole point is that the whole thing is that I personally think he just has problem accepting change and growing up, right? Essentially is what it is.
Mm.
Because he can't really accept change and growing up. And he's always got that thing in his mind about his relationship with women. Excuse me. It's that it's mainly because it's the self-narrating thing that he's talking to the camera as well. Because if he self-narrates, that means he has conscious of the things he does. And if he's conscious of the things he does, he must realize that the things he does aren't good. And it just makes me go, you're making me so fucking angry at you, Rob. It's like, not you, Rob,
Yeah,
but like,
no, yeah.
you're making me so angry at you. And it's just like, you had lots of chances to be not an arsehole, but you became an arsehole still. And it's just like, sure, at the end, it took someone dying for him to go, maybe I'm a bit of a dick. And
I know,
and
I
it's
think
just
it
like,
happens before that though.
does it though?
Yeah,
I feel
think
like
it does. I think it does because
Yes.
as soon as he starts contacting people, you can see he's kind of like he's kind of like forming a more fuller person for himself. And I think the bit that really stands out to me is the bit where is it Liz? Joan Cusack?
Joan Cusack calls John Cusack.
Yeah, so it's when she calls him and she's like, "You're an arsehole," and like all of that kind of stuff. Which is another thing actually, because like the reason I don't really get along with people saying, "Oh, I didn't like it because he was a dick," is like the film is aware that he's a dick. Like everyone's calling him a dick. like nobody's advocating for his behaviour. And I don't think you're supposed to come away from it going, yeah, he acted reasonably. But yeah, it's that phone call where she's like, "Oh, you arsehole," and then he's like, "Okay, I think the reason that happened is because I did all of these things." And as he's talking about it, I think it's really, really nicely acted because I think you can see that he's starting to say things that he doesn't believe in anymore. And he's starting to realize that the things that he did was unreasonable. And then and like I say, it's not slapping you around the face going, "Oh, I'm changing," but he is like, and I think that's demonstrated by on his top 5, one of the breakups is a relationship that lasted for like an hour or whatever it was when he was a kid. And it's like he never got past that mental state of being a kid.
Not only
And
is it one of the top, it is the top.
mm,
It is the top one,
yeah,
and it's the
And
one,
that-
and it's the one that kind of set the stage for everything. It's that one little like rug pull that he just wasn't prepared for, and that's just made him just close up
yeah,
the whole
And
time.
and that's why I think it's a really interesting character because it's basically saying to you, this guy is a child. Like he never got over this breakup when he was a kid because that's still the mental state that he's in, and because that's the mental state that he's in, he doesn't know how to cope with like approaching a woman like they're another person. Like he just sees them as this like source of pain. And
You call me?
no.
No, he said
No,
source of pain,
I'm-
Jen.
I'm on, yeah, I'm on there. Shut the
Not
door.
source of pain de chocolat.
Yeah, so like he never got over that one breakup, and he never really like he never reached a mental state where he could start realizing that there was more than just him in a relationship until he started. And this is another clever thing, right? So it's a heightened situation. It's not something that you'd do in real life, but for dramatic purposes, I think it works really well. That he goes back and he starts like talking to all of his exes and trying to understand what's going on. And by understanding what's going on, that's how he learns not to objectify women.
I do like that little bit when he's kind of reached the end of like all the exes and that, and I think the encounter with the second one when she like does her whole thing of like, you like wore me down like so much, and then you like called me tight and broke up with me, and then this little dickhead like just came right in and I was just too tired to like fight him off, and just all this kind of horrible stuff, and she's like, "Fuck you, Rob." not you. And then she she wa- she walks off
This
and
is
he's
why
like,
I wanted to be called Bubble this time.
Why don't today we call
she
Rob Bob?
walks off.
Yeah.
What?
And then we're talking about, sorry.
But then she walks off and he's like, "Oh yeah, I broke up with her. Hooray!" And
Yeah,
like,
but that
that-
made
that-
me drop a whole fucking half point because she talks about how she got pretty much sexually assaulted, and he's like, "Oh yeah,
I
it's
broke up
about
with
me,"
her.
and I'm
Yes.
like, "You
That-
piece of shit."
That's
And
the
it's-
point. That it was so absurd that I couldn't help but laugh. I was just like, "Fucking hell!" But like, I found him so compelling. But then later, when he's like developed a little more and he looks back on that, he kind of goes, he thinks back to that little encounter he had with X number two, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, that was really bad actually." Like his opinion of that like exchange has changed
Mm.
in retrospect.
He does learn. Yeah, you're right. I
But
think
there's
the
the-
top is, yeah.
Oh, sorry, Finn.
He starts off being very like self-centered and it's all about me, and then as he grows and realizes, oh wait a second, maybe I was a bit of a dick back then when I was thinking about this breakup. It's like, oh yeah, you kind of were.
Because this was something I wanted to address with what Simon said. Because him narrating it is different to him considering other people, and like so you do meet people who are just so self-centered that they will describe events, but they'll only do it with their frame of reference. So if you're as self-centered as he is, you will probably describe things that happen, but you won't consider the other people. And yeah, you will just think of it in terms of views. But like Rob said, it is purposeful. That is the point. You are supposed to go, wow, what childish fucking behavior. That's so fucking childish. And yeah, I think the thing with protagonists is that I disagree with you have to like them.
Yeah.
I think I think dropping a score for someone doing something objectionable is like I think that's something you should reserve for when the story doesn't acknowledge it.
Mm.
I'm thinking of like, oh god, I fucking hate this. I'm thinking of like something like Fast and Furious, where they continually drive around and they're like causing property damage, they're putting lives in danger, they're killing people, they're hurting people, they're bringing buildings down, they're pulling a giant wrecking ball through the city for their own gain, and they go straight back to their house and they're like, okay, now we say grace at dinner, and I'm like, bro, there's so many, there's not enough grace in the world for this. Like you guys are pricks. But the story
It's all
goes,
about
aren't they
family.
great? Aren't they great? Family.
Yeah. That's the
Like,
thing. Like, I mean,
That's stuff I think you should take point off for. But like Rob said, this character is called a dickhead by pretty much every character, pretty much throughout, until he starts changing his behaviour. So the story is aware of that. Where does he live? He lives in a shit apartment. Where's his girlfriend? She's breaking up with him currently. What's his job? He's in a failing business. What are his friends like? He hates both his friends. The people in his life who are willing to stand up for him come in and call him a dickhead in front of all his business. Because he, like, no one's on his side.
yeah. I think that's the thing. Like, I think if you go into every film thinking I've got to like the protagonist, then it limits a lot of what a film can do. Because I don't think a protagonist is there for you to get along with them necessarily. Like, I think in an example like Man of Steel, like if Superman levels a city and the film doesn't seem to realize that he's killed 500,000 people, then yeah, like that, then there's a problem. But I think a protagonist, unless it's like, even if it is a superhero film sometimes, but unless it's like that kind of like black and white, good against evil battle, I don't think a protagonist has to be there to be liked as a person. I think they should be there to challenge you. And I think Rob does challenge you because it's that thing of, like I said, like it's coming to terms with your own behavior and realizing that there's a world outside of what's in your head.
Like he's not likable, but I find him compelling. Like I've got such a thing about how people perceive me, and I have a thing about being moral and being like a good person and stuff. So I find characters like this very compelling because they just don't have that voice. They're just free to just be as selfish as they want, and I can go, "Oh, that's what happens,"
Mm.
because I don't let myself do it.
That's a good
I
point.
hope.
I think
But
the most interesting characters are the ones that aren't 100% like flawless. And he is very, very, very flawed, isn't he? But that
Very.
doesn't mean he's not a nice guy. Like in the grand scheme of things, he's flawed, he makes mistakes, he constantly has like the wrong kind of like his moral compass is all over the place. But in the end, he still kind of like realizes like, look, I know what I want to do as a person. I know who I am. I have my kind of like right and wrong. I know who I am as a person. I'm not trying to be someone else. I'm trying to be me. I'm just trying to live my life and just do what I love and find someone who loves me and I want to love them, etc. So it's kind of like you kind of know who he is. He's the simple guy that just wants just the bare bones of life, but he's got a trouble at like articulating it, and it kind of
doing
like,
it.
yeah, it's the execution, and he's not very good at that at all. But
Mm.
that's what makes him relatable in a certain degree. But at the same time, you're like, you can kind of like you're on his side, but you want to, you just want to be like tap on his shoulder and say, look, mate, do this, you'll be fine. If you
Yeah.
just step back and just stop for a minute and think about your actions, you'll be fine. It's kind of like he's just your friend that you just want to be like, look, mate, you mean well, but if you do this, maybe you'll be in a better off position, and try not to say that about this and that, and don't be this or that to someone else because it's not right. So it's kind of like he just needs a bit of a guidance.
Mm.
That's why he's an interesting character. He's just like he's almost right, but he's not quite there.
That's why I love the whole setup of him like being a music obsessive and owning a record shop and all of that kind of stuff. I think a line that I find really interesting is the one where he's talking about the shop and he says about records being fetish possessions and how he'd feel bad for his customers if he wasn't one of them. And that's basically like how he's been treating women, but he hasn't he hasn't made the link that treating a woman as a fetish possession is the thing that he's doing wrong. And you can see why he is doing it because like this sort of like it's going back to this top 5 list and how his top breakup is one that it's the relationship that lasted the shortest amount of time, and the reason it was so hard for him is because it was the first of its kind and like all of that kind of stuff. So he basically just it's like he finds comfort in these fetish possessions because they can't hurt him and he can arrange them how he wants. And like that scene where he's arranging them and Dick comes in and he's talking about how he's doing it biographically because like he has to remember that this is something that he bought for someone and he didn't give it to him and all of that kind of stuff. It's like he's in complete control of these things and he can just like yeah, like I say, arrange them any way he wants, and then that's why he's doing the top 5 breakups because that's his way of controlling that. And I think that leading to his self-reflection is really cool because it's a similar thing of how what's inside the records is the music and that can do the same thing and all that. I think that's all really, really well put together. Um, I don't think you'd get any of that if he was likable.
Okay. My opening statement. I'm looking at multiple things at the same time. Going off of what Simon said, it's not that I think he doesn't realize things. I think the main thing is that he's starting to realize he's a dick from early on, and he's starting to realize more and more. The problem is until like the end of just before he leaves the funeral / after they have sex, until that point is when he actually stops acting like a dick. That's when all the kind of internal thinking there's actually a result from it, a positive, like, oh, you're actually not acting like a dick. You're doing some things and saying some things that are actually considerate and good. But until that point, he wasn't acting out those better thoughts or anything. He was thinking them. He wasn't doing them, not really. And then the one part I liked is actually, that might be a favorite scene. I won't say that now. Anyway, main thing is that the main reason I didn't enjoy it, and I'm not saying that you have to like the character. I say this many times, just because a character is very realistic and it's written very well, and very well realistically, consistently, like it all makes sense, doesn't mean I have to like him. It doesn't mean that I am necessarily going to enjoy it, though. Even if it's done well, it does not mean I'm going to enjoy it. And this film, basically, I think it was very triggering. There were things in this film he did that maybe it's too close to home, knowing so many women who've told me the exact type of things that have happened to them, that guys like this dick, not actual dick. The actual dick is nice in the film, but this it's because I don't want to say his name, but
Voldemort.
Oh no, don't give her royalties.
But yeah, the main guy, like there's just so many real life examples of women I know too close to me that have been hurt in exactly the same type of situations, and it's made me want to like beat some people up, like really wreck them. And I've just been like, this is triggering too many memories. It's just pissing me off. It took me a whole day to watch this film, constantly pausing and walking away. And there were points where Camilla was just like, maybe we should stop watching this for now. Maybe just try another time. It's like, it's okay. I just need some time. I'll go and read something and come back. And that's how realistic it is in a lot of the things it's writing, and reflective of real life. For a lot of people, especially at the time, in its time when it was made, it is very reflective of time. It just constantly pissed me, made me very angry, and triggered me. So yeah, but not that that's anything new. I'll tend to rate certain things high, technically wise, but enjoyment, I might have absolutely hated it or had a hard time. But I don't think it's a bad film. I just
I understand where you're coming from, because I think there is like one particular scene where I think I know where it kind of starts, is that it's his second breakup with the second girlfriend that he has.
Mhm.
And the fact he kind of glosses over the fact that she was raped in a way, which is like, and even if it's slightly raped, it still is. It's basically, you can't have,
Slightly raped.
if you can't say it's one or the other, it's like, yeah, she was basically raped. And he kind of like, no, it's all about me. It's all just about, oh, I don't care about what's going through your head or what you're going through. And I'm just going to be like, oh, but you kind of dumped me. It's all about him. And he doesn't really seem to acknowledge it. And it's a bit like, ooh.
Yeah, I'm getting angry all over again.
Yeah, sorry to bring it up, but yeah, that's the part that was like, the first part that was a bit like, Rob, what are you doing? Not you, Rob, the other Rob. Rob, what are you doing, you idiot?
That's going to be the meme of this one, isn't it?
Sure.
What are you doing, Rob? You awful pet. Not you.
The other Rob, the cool Rob.
So many times. Like the lady, don't get me wrong, like she the one who they both got together just after a breakup, and then she said, I've found someone else, whatever kind of thing. Whatever, it happens. It wasn't that bad of a breakup. It was just quite simple, and I don't think he got closure on a lot of stuff. but then his behavior sometimes, but not sometimes his behavior. But anyway, she's living hand to mouth. She's having a really hard time. It's not, oh, can I help you? How are you doing? Your mental state, like what are you doing? Not what are you doing? Like, how are you actually like this and that, X, Y, and Z? It's, I see, bye. Yeah, I could have had sex with her, but I did it. It's just like, that's your first fucking thought.
Yeah.
This is going through it. I have to stop it. I can't. No. It's like, you keep pissing me off.
But that is a very critical moment for him because I expected him to, and he walks off and he says something which I don't think rings very true. He's saying like, I could have had sex back there, but I couldn't because you wouldn't be having sex with a person, you'd be having sex with a single person culture. I think he feels guilty about it because he's like, if we had sex, I'm not into it. I feel bad taking advantage of her while she's vulnerable like this. I don't want to say that. I think that's the underlying thing. That's not what he says, but I think that is the thing that he feels, and that is
Yeah.
the front he projects. He's like, I need to say some kind of elitist, pseudo-intellectual crap to like mask this, but I think he feels guilty about the thought of doing it because she's in a bad place, and he walks off, and I think that's the point where I start going, hang on a minute, he's not just in it for himself entirely. That's kind of the point where he goes, aha, and like some non-dickish behavior like kind of shines through slightly.
And that's the thing, like, he's this narcissistic guy, which the bar is of his behavior is almost on the floor. Don't get me wrong. It's not the worst. He could be much worse. He could be much, much worse. But the bar is not far from the floor.
Definitely.
That's something that's slightly above the bar where he was. So he's progressed. He's still acting like a dick, but he's not as bad as he was. But he hasn't progressed to where he needs to be. And yes, he's made progress, but he's still pissing me off.
Yeah, but I do appreciate that at the end, he's not just Mr. Rogers all of a sudden. He's still got a ways to go, but these are big steps for this guy.
Oh yeah, I think in terms of how it ended, I wasn't surprised with where he himself, in terms of his development, ended. I thought that was a realistic way to end. He just probably needed some counseling after that, like talking sessions with a professional to go through some communication issues and different stuff after that. But similar to something someone else said, I did not expect him to end up back with Laura. Did not think he deserved Laura. But I think she also has her own things going on. And I think it's one of those things that they were both kind of, they went through a hard time. He went through betraying her. And she was like, even though he's not a good guy, he's finally making some changes. And I miss that about him. And I want to try and give it another chance. And fair enough on her. He is, and it is portrayed that he is a lucky guy. He has been lucky a lot throughout the film. And at the end of the film, he gets lucky again, getting someone back he didn't deserve. And he actually did make a positive change. It's like, for once, like he says this one thing there, the answer, for once, I agree with you. Said it a bit strangely, but yeah.
I do think with Laura though, I think like just on the thing of him deserving her and that kind of thing, I do get the feeling that she likes a project and that's why they get back together rather than he does anything to like earn her back. Because it's like there's a bit between them that kind of reminds me of me and Rachel, and it's a bit where she's looking at his top 5 dream jobs, and it's like it's all this stuff that you'd expect, but one of them is architect. And he's just like off in his own dream world, and he's having fantasies for the sake of having fantasies and all of that kind of stuff. And she's like, wouldn't you rather own a record store than be an architect? And he's like, yeah, probably. And she just crosses out architects, and and it's like the life you're living is you already prefer this to your dream. Like what are you doing kind of thing. Um so yeah, I get the impression that it's less that he has done something to earn her back, and it's more that he is somebody who likes the idea of working on him, and that's why she arranges the gig and like does all this stuff. I think it's like I think what she sees in him is as much of a boyfriend as it is a project.
What I would say to add to that, because I think it kind of takes a little bit away, there might be part of that to it, but I think it's as a result of the kind of time she spent with him and where they've come from. So obviously we know at this point they've been together for many years, to the point where everyone was thinking the next step is marriage or whatnot. They've been together for a long time. And I think that she probably wasn't thinking that at first, but they were both in kind of lower places or darker or deeper places when they were together. Yeah, they were doing okay, but at the time it was more, I'm with someone who's similar to me in certain ways, a similar kind of level, and I want to work to get myself better. Let's both work to get ourselves better and go toward a place. But of course, during the kind of process, he didn't change. He was obviously quite depressive all the time at home, which can obviously have a big impact. And it did on the relationship. And she was just like, I can't take this anymore. On top of all the other stuff that happened, I have to go. And she probably, there's the aspect of the project part of it, I think comes into it more that because of how much she cares about him and how much she's just like, we both started here and I see your potential. I really care for you and love you, but I think you could do so much better in terms of what you're doing. And it's really sad seeing you like this, like all the time. And that brings me down. But if you're actually changing, that it makes you better to be around. And it's not just the let's work together, like, and help you get to a place. Because at the end of the day, if he was truly happy in his record store kind of job, he was doing quite well in it. He wasn't coming like being depressive all the time, refusing change and being really stubborn and stuff. It probably would have been a different conversation. But it seems, because I don't think I'm not saying you're saying this. I don't think she necessarily thinks, oh, you need to be like hugely successful or blah, blah, you need to be up here or whatever kind of thing. I think she just wants him to work on himself and sort himself out rather than being contented with being a hot mess and staying in that pit of like wallowing misery all the time, which most people, of course, aren't going to want to be around.
Mm.
And I think that's the main thing. It kind of makes her excited when she like, oh, you're changing. She wants to get involved because at the end of the day, you want to do that with someone you're with, especially with that long you really care about. You want to help them, support them, get to a better level that's going to make them happier, that they want. If they keep complaining about what they want but not getting there.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, but like I do see it like a little bit differently. Just because like there's another bit that I think substantiates the project thing, and it's the bit with Liz again. Because the only reason that we learn about like all of these horrible things that Rob did, not me, the other Rob, was because
You could say
It's-
the actor's name actually.
oh yeah, it's true actually. Yeah,
Oh no,
I
I
always,
prefer this.
Yeah. Cusack.
well, it is becoming a thing, I suppose, isn't it?
I do like.
But yeah, so like it's what was I saying? Oh yeah, the only reason that we learn about like all the horrible things that Rob did was because Liz is sticking up for Rob, and then Laura's like, yeah, you're only doing this because you don't know this. All of the conversations that they have about them breaking up is the whole thing about change, and it's like it's almost like all of these horrible things were a bit of a side note, and the real issue is that he's still the person that she met, whereas she's not. And it's like the thing that sparks them getting back together isn't that Rob is becoming a nicer guy. It's just that he's learning how to change. And then that's where it's like, oh, okay, maybe we can actually work with this. It's almost as if like whether he's a nice guy or not is secondary just to his ability to change. And because he's now got an ability to change, it's like, okay, now I can do what makes me happy, which is try and make you a better person.
Fair enough. I mean, yeah, I think I still, and maybe it's because like personal and different things people have said in the past. It kind of makes me think about that aspect of like if again, if he wasn't wallowing in that pit all the time, she would, she, I don't think the relationship would have ended where we saw it end.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, she wants him to be happy, but he wasn't happy. And if both of you aren't happy and one of you is always sad and miserable, you can't continue. And I think if he was truly happy, actually working on himself, trying to better himself, then yeah, she would have stuck around and they wouldn't have had this whole breakup. And then maybe the film wouldn't have happened.
Which would have been fine for you.
That's
Yeah, but if the film didn't happen, we wouldn't have had that really nice bit with Barry, where he was like, "Bro, what a night it really was, bro, what a Angina's tough."
Oh yeah, I was looking forward to hearing his band, and then they did that random different cover, alternative cover of what was it? What song again?
Let's
Sexual
get it
healing.
on.
What?
Let's get it on.
Yeah, I was just like, and Camilla was just like, are the people in this club high or just that
Yes.
pumped? They're just like and drunk. They're just like yeah to anything. I don't know.
I
Hey,
thought that was great, man. I think if you're
excuse you.
like if we were going to see Alex band Kathleen Turner Overdrive and then they and then they came on in suits doing that, I'd be like, oh yeah.
There's context to everything. In some situations, I might be like, yeah, but at this point in the film, I think I just wanted to hear some good rock. And then I hear a funny version of Let's Get It On. And the main character is also not really enjoying this either. And I'm just like,
Yes, he was. They were all surprised he could actually sing.
Yeah, that was a point in the film where it's like, oh my god, he doesn't suck, and it was like, yeah, this is great.
That's actually probably my
So
favorite
I
scene
think
if I had to pick one, because I love the face acting from John Cusack, because like he spent all this time being like, oh man, Barry's and is just so annoying, and Barry's like this bumbling idiot, and Barry, things would be so much better if Barry wasn't here. And then like he's put into a position where he's forced to sort of like I guess in his mind he's been put into a position where he's been forced to entertain Barry's stupid hobby. And then Barry comes out and he can actually sing. And I just love that bit where he's just like, he stood behind Laura, just like, holy shit. I really love that.
fair enough. He was a bad friend.
Yeah.
I didn't even really understand why he was so kind of like not even giving Barry a chance when it came to the singing stuff.
Because
Like,
he's annoying and he thinks he's talentless.
Yeah, like he's made a value judgment because he's a man child, and
there
and
you
it's
go.
like,
There you go. But a lot of annoying people are amazing musicians.
Yeah.
That's a fact, and that's nothing new in the music industry even then. So
Sorry, Ben. Sorry, Ben. That's all
what? No, Ben is
right.
great.
Otherwise,
that's
it is true. Yeah, most people are dickheads.
I don't know if you were calling Ben a great magician or annoying. I don't know. I got confused by the conversation.
It could be one or the other.
But that's another thing, though, isn't it? Because I think that's like that's another thing that ties into him fetishizing music is that he's built it in his head. Like even though he knows so much about music, that being a good musician makes you a good person, and because he sees Barry as annoying, his music's probably annoying. And then when Barry actually like proves that he can actually sing, that's another cog turning in his head where he's going like, "Oh, my brains are full of shit." Like, that's like it's
Oh, it wasn't the phrase that he says his guts were full of shit or something, great.
is he.
But
I do think though that line could have been a tiny bit better because he says my guts have shit for brains, but I think if he said my guts are full of shit, then that would have worked better.
but our guts full of shit anyway, because
Yeah, that's the point, isn't it? If you're using your gut to think, then it's going to be full of shit.
okay, sure.
Yeah. Checkmate.
Yeah, fair enough. I think it's how would I say it? At first I was kind of expecting him after saying he wanted to produce the kids. I was kind of expecting
Honey, I want a baby. Or if you will, I want to produce the kids.
How do I
You-
produce the kids?
You mean when he signed the label for the teenagers? Yeah, that's what you want to say. Produce.
I wanted to be a producer for this.
I do think that's another really cleverly written bit. But sorry, go on.
After that, it didn't click in his head that after that, even though that situation was a kind of turning point for him going, oh, I thought nothing of these kids, like they can't like do anything good, but they actually did. These crapheads, whatever, these annoying thieves did something really good, and I want to actually help them like get out there. He didn't, it didn't kind of, that thought line didn't follow through to, oh, Barry might actually be decent if I just give him the chance. But I actually haven't heard him doing anything but messing around.
No, because he's doing it by increments. That's immediately following the conversation with Laura about his top 5 jobs and how he should just kind of be a bit more realistic. But like, yeah, he sees the kids and he's like, I can actually make a change here, but that doesn't yet extend to, oh fuck it, let's just give everyone a shot. Well, let's give Barry a shot. Like fuck it, why not? He has to get there slowly.
It's kind of like it's sort of like building him up to undo 30 odd or however many years he's been alive of like thinking in this certain way. And he is getting there, but it's like it's like we were saying earlier, like he doesn't end the film as a perfect person, and the film doesn't try to say that he is a perfect person by the end of it, but he's trying to undo the things that he's been doing. And yeah, I don't know. I think there's something hopeful about that.
Like I said, I really appreciate that he doesn't end the story as like Mr. Rogers. Like he's still got a ways to go.
It's like that scene with when he proposes to Laura. Like I do actually think that's a really nice proposal because it's just like he's kind of getting to the point where he thinks like, okay, if I'm realizing that this is the incorrect behavior and everyone's talking about marriage and how that's the next bit, then I guess this is what I have to do. And then she's like, did you really think I'd say yes? And if that had have happened at the start, it would have been this big meltdown about how it's another rejection, and like there'd be this big debate about where it'd be on his top 5 breakups and all of that kind of stuff. But in this instance, he's just like, yeah, no, I just thought it was important to ask, and that's yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Are you all right in all seriousness? Because it sounds like you're like,
No, I want to fucking die. I hate it.
Mm.
I take it you don't know what it is.
As far as I know, it's like just a little bit of snot. It's just like, hey, I live here now.
Not COVID.
I'm like, it's not COVID. I'm just like, fuck off. Sorry, not meaning to derail that.
Hmm.
I gotta say, I was quite impressed with Jack Black in this. I thought, considering this was like one of his first ones.
Yeah, he really like stole the show in a lot of ways.
Well, I do love that bit when is this the angina's tough bit. Rob starts strangling him, and he's like, ah, ah. It just catches me.
Do you know what? I think
It's
my
so good.
favorite bit with Jack Black, other than the bit that I said, is the it's it's the scene where Rob does his top 5 album openers, and Barry's doing that bit where he's like, "Oh, a new one in amongst a bunch of safe classics. Oh, I didn't know that you had no interest in music." And like he's just like berating him for his list, and the guy's like coming up behind him, and he's like, "Can I?" And he's like, "In a minute." And he's just like he's sort of like managing him, even though he's finished what he's saying, and he's just coming out with more to berate Rob. And then the conversation about whether they have the record happens, and then Barry goes behind the counter, and it's literally just like half a second, but he bends over to get the record, and as he bends over, his ass comes out. It's just like I just really like that nobody calls any attention to it. I really like that bit of dialogue after with Lewis where he's like, "No, why would you sell it to me and not to him?" And they're like, "Because you're not a total nerd." And he's like, "You guys are snobs. You see yourself as the underappreciated scholars, and you shit on everyone who knows less than you." And they're like, "No." And he's like, "Which is everyone." And they're like, "Yes."
Yep.
God, just so down on it.
But I think that's the thing. Like, I think like it works in 2 ways. Like I said, I think the whole thing of Rob being this really unlikable guy because he doesn't know how to deal with his emotions, and like him becoming a slightly better guy because he's like learning how to reflect. I think that's really cool. But I also think it's really cool as like just like a sort of slice of life thing, of like a subculture, because it's like, you know, if you've got like a strong interest in sort of alternative music and you own a record store and all of this kind of stuff, like there is an element of thinking like, well, like I'm the person who appreciates this more than anyone else because nobody else appreciates it. And there's I think that's like the way that they play that off for laughs, I think is really great as well.
Mm.
Oh, Emmanuel.
Huh?
Oh, Emmanuel.
Oh yeah, Emmanuel, I don't know if you saw, because Ben said it in the chat, and I was like, oh man, I was going to save that for the call. But you know, you was like, oh, there's a woman in this who looks like Zoe Kravitz.
Yeah, her mom.
Yeah.
He knows. He knows.
God, just some people's mums tonight.
It's your mom. Bloody hell.
I only knew because of Camilla. She's just like, wait, is that her mom?
And that's what they look like.
I've never seen her before.
Yeah.
Like, let me check, because that would make sense. So it's like, yeah.
I don't think she's in a lot of things, to be fair. I can't
Yeah.
think of anything else I've seen her in.
It was like she was in a couple of things, and I think because she had a fling with Lenny Kravitz. Then they had Zoe in that relationship. Then they broke up, and then that was it. And I don't know what she's doing now. She just kind of, maybe she's a fashion icon.
She's married to Jason Momoa now, isn't she?
Oh yeah, you're right. Of course she is, and therefore Jason
Right.
is her godfather. Is Zoe's godfather. That's really
Ooh.
weird. Even though they're the same sort of age.
Married to who?
Jason Momoa.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
I don't know that. Yeah, they split up.
Oh, did they?
Yeah.
Oh.
I've seen
Wikipedia is
things.
always so bitchy, man. Because I went on her Wikipedia to see what else she's been up to, and there's a bit where it says children, and it says free, including Zoe Kravitz. It's like the other two are just like,
Yeah, some random people.
That's rude. I was wondering if there was like, I assume they did, but did they, when they did the casting for the TV show, did they like purposely have her daughter in mind, or like how she ended up playing Rob? And
Yeah, I
like,
don't know, to be honest, because
and did her in mind, and then she was just like, "All right, I'll try out for it."
yeah, I don't know. I mean, because I haven't really watched the TV show. I watched a couple of episodes, and yeah, literally all I know about it is that they turn Rob into a lesbian. Like, yeah.
Hmm.
I did wonder who was going to do it. Turn on the show by accident. Go.
No, I wonder what I would have felt about the show. I like the way it started. I have to say it. The script is very similar, but I was liking the start better. But anyway, I might have hated it too. You know.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just looking at stuff now. I can't see anything about the casting for it. There was I think is it Vanity Fair? You do the YouTube videos where like actors are talking about the roles that they've played and all that kind of stuff. Is it them?
yeah.
Probably they do the big photo shoots where everyone looks all like sophisticated and like all decked out
Yeah.
with all the
Yeah,
proper like costumes.
there was one where Jack Black was on it, and he was talking about Barry in this, and he was saying that like his favorite thing about shooting it was that the director is Stephen Frears, and he's like just like an old English guy, and he's like completely not the kind of person who you'd have expected to have like directed a film like this. Like he's known for like Shakespeare stage plays and all of that kind of stuff, and he was saying like when they were shooting, like he was basically just like acting like Barry on set, and he was like just sort of like dancing around and like doing all this stuff, and he was just like excited to be on a movie set for like one of the first times. And apparently, like one day he was just like doing it, and Stephen Frears was just like sat in the corner, just like looking like increasingly more and more frustrated at it all. And apparently someone else, I don't know who it was now, but like somebody was like, "Are you okay?" And he just sort of like looked towards Jack Black and then looked to the person who'd asked the question. He was like, "I'm too old for this shit."
That's quite funny. I actually want to look at more stuff on the IMDb just in case. I've only looked at a tiny bit and stopped.
Yeah, there was I think it was Edgar Wright. Like he went through a phase of doing like he started posting like potential double bills on Twitter for a while, and I think it was him. If it wasn't him, it was someone else. But somebody, either him or someone else, put together a double bill of this and School of Rock, because you can kind of like follow the character of Barry through to School of Rock, and it's like, oh, this is what he did after High Fidelity.
Ah,
That's neat.
Uh,
that's pretty cool.
I guess it's just kind of weird that Liz became his boss. But
Yeah. Oh, I gotta say, speaking of Liz, I do feel bad for the actresses. They had some fucking shit hair to wear.
Some what?
Really shit hair. Like, I like when you turn your camera off. I just got a little flash of why.
Oh, that was an accident, by the way.
That's all right. It was so bad. I was looking. I was just like, damn. I was alive for this. I don't remember any haircuts like this. Like,
To
what
be
happened?
fair, I think
I-
like 2000 is a weird year because it's like I don't know if you guys feel the same, but for me it feels like it's really recent because it's 2000. But then you realize it was the year after 1999, and it's like, oh, that was a while ago.
Yeah, to me it feels a long time ago, but yeah, I think it's mainly, to be honest, I see time and stuff in a weird way sometimes, and things just take longer for me. Anyway, but I kind of just think of it as the Y2K era, and then I remember all the kind of stuff in the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC and all the stuff around that time, and how much I didn't actually like the fashion or a lot of things that were going on. I was just like, this is a whole mess. You've got Britney Spears doing, I don't know what she's doing. You've got Backstreet Boys and NSYNC, all these people in Smash Mouth doing some crazy fashion statements. And I'm just like, I know you think that's cool, but that's not cool. You look silly.
It's funny that you mentioned that
You
actually
look
That
because
like a
was
bug.
that's the most devastating I've heard the word silly be.
Yeah, fat goose smash mouth.
it's funny you mentioned that because I vividly remember when we were in secondary school. I can't remember like why I started thinking it, but I remember thinking, man, like the 50s, the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s and the 90s, like they all had like a distinct fashion, but there's no distinct fashion at the moment. But now I'm like looking back, I'm like,
Oh,
there,
yeah.
there was.
Maybe it was just so bad you blocked it out. He was just like, this isn't fashion, so I'm just not gonna count it.
It's
But it
funny,
was all
like there was
carry on.
this thread on Twitter a while ago. It was like it was about I can't I can't remember how it had been phrased, but it was like it was basically like pictures of people from the 2000s, even though they're not from the 2000s, and it's basically just people now walking around in like ill-fitting crop tops and like things like that. And that was when I started going like, oh yeah, there was a distinctive look.
Yeah. It's an interesting, like Camilla really doesn't like it. She's just like, actually I shouldn't say her name on here. Anyway, my wife really doesn't like it. She what you call
We,
it?
s- we say her name every stream.
My wife.
Mawab. High
I was
five.
just thinking maybe I shouldn't say it on stream. I don't know.
Today.
Did you want that? Anyway.
That's all right. We can cut. His wife's name isn't Camilla.
If any of our viewers think it is Camilla, then get another YouTube channel.
Yeah, you're wrong. You're bloody wrong.
Oh, but yeah, she was like, "Oh, can you see me all right?"
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. She was like, I would try to explain to her that this is what a lot of people our age and older have gone through before us. Like all the people like 20 years ago who were talking to you, like older folks saying like, man, people are wearing that again. Or stuff like that, or when certain 70s or stuff come in and out of fashion. I mean, we do live in a postmodern era, especially with internet and everything. So everything's just more obvious. But it was just like, she's like, still, it sucks. It didn't look good then. It doesn't look good now. It doesn't make sense. Or some of the stuff she's like, oh, I did like that back then. Why are you doing it? Why are you just cosplaying as a younger me? You realize you're cosplaying as a younger me. This isn't new. You think you're all you think you're all great doing something new. You're doing nothing new. You're just dressing up like me. This makes no sense. I was like, I'm not surprised, to be frankly honest. But this is, and I don't know, maybe studying, what you call it? Maybe studying performing arts and media studies just jaded me. and to think into realizing everything has been recycled since like the 50s and onwards. They just keep recycling things in different ways.
You are literally becoming the Abe Simpson of this now. You're going, I used to be with it, but whatever it was changed, so I'm no longer with it. And what it now is terrifies and scares me. So literally, you've become the old man that you used to complain about. And that's terrifying.
You're gonna be in the newspaper very, very soon. The headline's gonna be "Old Man Yells at Cloud."
Yes, perfectly.
You make me so angry.
Oh man. Yeah, this is great. But yeah.
John Cloud sack. Maybe not. Right, do we want to do favourite scene? Go on, Si. Go on, I feel like you got one on the tip of your tongue. Go on.
It feels like the scene that was stolen from Ally McBeal, I feel, is the scene that is my favorite scene. It's where he has where he meets the guy. What's his name? Ian, or is it?
Oh yeah, Ian. Yeah.
Is it Ian? Right? Or what did they call him?
He's
Ian
that
Raymond.
fucking Ian guy.
Okay.
Ian Raymond.
Yeah, that's it. They call him Raymond Ian, or Ian Raymond. Yeah. And when he comes to the store and he just stands there and it has like 6 or something, or maybe not quite that many, but he has lots of violent like imaginations. I'm just thinking
Worse and worse.
Yeah, I think it's just like I like when that's one of the points. Like, it made me laugh, but it made me go, I feel like I've been that person as well, and it hurt my soul, because when he did like the first fake out, I was like, okay, fine. Then he did the second fake out, and I was like, huh? And then he did the third fake out. I was like, oh, I see. There's gonna be one more. Yeah, there was one more fake out. Yeah, okay, cool. And it was just like, as comedy wise, that makes perfect sense, because it's just, as a person, you can feel like the anger, you want to do something, but you don't do it because obviously you're not insane, or you're not crazy. At least I hope people aren't that crazy and insane. But it's just like, I feel like most people, I know personally, I've been that person who's like, I fucking picked up this fucking like stapler and I smashed it in your face. Would it hurt you? It really would hurt you. But I'm not going to do that because I'm not insane, obviously. But everyone's had that like little tiny intrinsic thought of like, I could smash this bottle on your head. But I'm not doing that. But it's because, like, I feel like that's probably my favorite scene, because it's the most realistic, and probably one of the points where I go, yeah, I guess if I saw the guy who was sleeping with my ex, I'll probably be really pissed off and want to do that stuff. Not going to, because this is a conversation and this is a bubble. This is not like, don't take this out of context, yeah? But it's just like, yeah, obviously.
Don't take this out of context, YouTube. You've been warned.
Well, I mean,
stay away from any statements.
Well, I mean, like, Pat got banned from Twitter for saying hit him in the leg. So, this is like a whole conversation in itself, right?
But to be fair, he said hit him in the leg after he told someone else to drink bleach. So...
Oh wait, so he said that beforehand?
Yeah,
okay.
Ages ago he told someone to drink bleach and he got banned for that.
Oh,
that makes sense. That's
okay.
Yeah, you can actually
get banned.
You can actually get in trouble for that.
Okay, never mind.
Drinking bleach, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Telling someone to drink bleach.
Some got berated, but we
But in any case, what I was going to say is that that scene is my favorite, because it's the scene that I think anyone who has had who have been upset with someone but doesn't act on those anger issues, acts on the anger, is something that anyone can really relate to. Which I guess can make it sound is like generic, but it makes sense to me because it connected with me, and I was like, yeah, that makes It's funny, but I went, ugh, that's on me as well.
Mm.
And I think my favorite scene was it's right near the ends where he says
Was it the credits?
I do
no, the
actually like the
credits were
credits,
pretty
to be fair.
boring. To be
Oh.
honest. I mean, it
Oh.
was nice seeing all his family involved in the film actually in the credits. That was cool. And I would say that's like, oh, all the Cusacks, his dad, his other sister,
Joan.
whoever else that is, not Joan, his other sister, Susie. I think,
Susie sounds right, yeah.
yeah, Susie. That's like,
John
it's all.
Cusack. Joan Cusack.
But yeah, right near the end when he explained why he's tired of basically going after those impulses and he wants to actually settle down, and how flawed the thought process is of going after that kind of older way of thinking, basically, which is said in actually many marriage books and marriage counseling. Like it is one of the kind of actual real life, I guess, tropes or kind of traps a lot of people fall into. They're in some relationship, but instead of working on the communication and working on being happier in the relationship or talking to each other, they know someone else and they're like, you know what, this is better. We don't have all these problems. And then they get into that relationship and then it's just a cycle and they end up in the problems that they thought they were escaping. It's just like, yeah, it's because you were a fool. You could have had something great, but instead of working on it and see if it could actually be good, you just went to something else, missing a whole important point. And I thought that was really good. That was actually something I was like, you know what? I hope anyone watching this who's like, that's a very important thing to take away. Like, if you didn't see much of this film and you see that, at least see this part. It's like, yeah, that's good.
I feel like I've got multiple, but so
Yeah.
Ben, do you want to go next?
It's good.
Yeah.
I think any scene in like the record shop was probably some of my favorite moments, just because it's just them just doing their thing, and I just love that part of that aspect of it the most. But aside from that, I think some of the scenes with Rob was just like him just talking to the camera with like the breaking the fourth wall. Was really clever, and it's just him like just talking to the audience about his thoughts and opinions and feelings about the whole situation, and he's just literally saying like, there was what was that scene? Well, he's just describing that like there's no sex better than the sex they're having in my head, and he's just like pulling his hair out and he's on the bed and he's just like going, it's just all fancy, and it's just like, oh right, I get what he's going through, and he's just like he's just overthinking stuff, and he's just like this internal battle in his own head is just like so perfectly realized in that scene where we just visually see like Tim Robbins and his wife just going at it. It's just like brilliantly done. And yeah, little moments like that where it's just like, is this fantasy and this reality? And like where you see the three of them just beat up Tim Robbins when he comes in the store, and is like when he leaves. It's like, there's like three different alternate versions of that. Where you just think, well, this is what we'd like to do, but we won't. But it's just the fantasy of it all. Just that part I thought was the highlights of the film to me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good choice actually. That's yeah.
So I do love that whole thing, like he's chatting to Liz, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, no, I thought you guys really worked together. I don't know what I think about this like Ian guy." And then he's like on the phone, he's like, and then Mary DeSalle comes in and he's like, "Oh," and then he's chatting with her, and it's like, "Oh, okay, so maybe he's found something to distract us like that, and you know, maybe he should pursue something with her. I don't know, like there's just so many possibilities. Like what could happen? Maybe he does this, maybe he does that. Where does it go? Where does this storyline go?" And then he goes into the back room, and then he just goes, "What fucking Ian guy?" That just that oh, I love that bit. That really caught me off guard. It's just like it's just I think it's just like those points where like he gets lost in a moment and then he comes back in and he starts talking to himself again and he's like, "Oh yeah," and all the files like click back in his head. It's like just after I think it's after like Marie DeSalle that leaves the movie and he comes back and he's like, "What does she mean yet?" And we get we get that whole thing again. And I do love that conversation where they're talking about it, and he's just like, "But would you know if I said yeah, would I have gone and seen it?" And he's like, "I mean, no. If you wanted to see it that bad, you'd have seen it already." And he's like, "Thank you, yes." And he's like, "Although yet," and he's like, "No." So just little writing quirks. I just really laugh.
Yeah. There's so many of those like just little character moments that I just love. Like there's another one. It's when Rob's organising his record collection and Dick comes in, and there's that bit where Dick's just looking at him and he's like, "Well, you're not doing it alphabetically." And Rob's like, "No, I'm doing it biographically." And he's like, "Oh God." And he's like, "Well, I can stay and help if you." Like just little things like that where it's like he just like wants to be around records for the sake of being around them. Like it's
Yeah, and they help him out as well.
yeah, I really like Dick as a character because I think Jack Black gets a lot of spotlight for how good he is as Barry, but I think one of the reasons that he's so good as Barry is because Dick is like the perfect straight man. Because like you've got Barry just being like this like ridiculous extrovert while Dick's just in the background like just just sort of like providing like a calming presence.
Mm.
And I really like that scene actually where he meets the girl that he goes on to date and they're talking about Green Day's influences. So he starts playing a Stiff Little Fingers album, and then the other person in the shop's like, "Hey, is this the new Green Day?" And he just literally just looks at her like.
Oh, I would like to give an honourable mention to I think it's just after they have the chat about his top 5 careers, and he's on the bridge and he's like, "My top 5 things I miss about Laura," and it's the first time that he's actually described a person's qualities rather than what they like
Mm,
or like. It's the first time he's come away from like describing someone as an object, and he's actually started describing their personality and like
yeah,
little behaviors and little things they do. And it's just like, yeah, there's a complete not schmuck in there. We need to coax him out a little. But like, they really put a smile on my face. Like, I think that's the thing. Like, you have those little moments of absurdity when he has the conversation with ex number 2, and he's like just happy. He's like, "Oh yeah, I dumped her." No, that made the what fucking Ian guy made me laugh when he's like, she's just like, "Have you had sex yet?" And she's like, "That's what you're asking me about?" And he's like, "Yes." And she's like, "Okay, no, I haven't had sex with him yet. We've slept together though. The sleeping together thing, that's better. The sex, the sex doesn't really matter, but the actually just romantic sleeping next to each other, that's better." And he's like, "Whew, okay, fair enough." And he comes out and he's like, "We are the champions." That made me laugh because I was just like, "Oh, fuck."
He's such an idiot.
He's that's the thing. Like when the character's like just so absurd, I'm just like, "Fuck me." But then you get like those. Then you get the conversation about like why Liz just came in and called him a fucking arsehole. and he's describing all these things, and I'm just like, motherfucking hell. But then he's like, he's kind of explaining the context behind it, and you go like, oh, okay, oh, right, okay, you didn't have all the information before you did any of this. Like, you kind of told it, like the severity of things was told backwards to make you go, you fucking asshole! You slept with someone else while she was pregnant. It's like he didn't know that. That's still bad, but that's not as bad.
Mm.
And it's like, oh, he's borrowed money off me, hasn't paid it back yet, and he's like, I literally can't pay it back, and I asked her, and like I said, don't give it to me, and she gave it to him, and it's like, and that's still bad, but it's not quite at, and it's like, you kind of, it's kind of like highballing it, where I'm like at peak, like, oh fucking hell, man, and it's just like, no, it's not quite as, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
fair enough.
he's just not as much as a dick as we thought he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think a good way to put like his whole arc actually. That I was just thinking about it as you were saying that, is that it's like at the start he hasn't learned what empathy is yet, and then the film is just him slowly like putting it together and realizing that other people have feelings, and it's like, this is why I don't think he's irredeemable, is because like I don't think he is fully aware that the world exists outside his own mind. And it's just him slowly realizing that there's more to life than just what's going on inside his head.
Because that's the thing at the funeral as well. Like when he's going on, when like Liz is saying about, oh, she's been having a tough time recently, and he's like, you can just say it to me. I'm just right here, and she's like, are you for fucking real? We're at, we're at Laura's dad's funeral, and you're doing this. And he's like, I could believe everything you say about me, and I could hate myself, or I could do this and this and this. I can't spend my life apologizing. And she's like, once would do. And then he kind of like looks at over at Laura, and two people hug her, and they're just like, I'm so fucking sorry. And he kind of, you can see him sort of process it, and he's like, yeah, this isn't about me, and I should get out of here because I'm making it about me, and this is not the time. And like that's just that little kind of moment where he's like, oh, and like his perception sort of like reframes, and he just goes like, I'm really fucking sorry. And he leaves, and it's just like, there you go.
Actually, what I would say is that a part of what annoys me about that scene is that he doesn't say, I'm really sorry, or his sorry doesn't seem properly sincere. It's quite cold or reserved. And you can tell that there's a lot going on. Obviously, she's going to know that he really does mean sorry because he's never said sorry like this. But he doesn't come across as, he acted it very well, but I'm just saying he didn't come across as, oh, I'm really sorry. It was just like, I'm sorry.
Well, he's not. I don't think he's apologizing for him. I think he is genuinely going, I'm sorry about your dad.
I think he's saying sorry for multiple things, like both, like the dad and how he's been. Because when she gets him in that moment, and like you said, he's starting to think, crap, I really am just like doing so much crap, or done so much like dumb crap. I'm sorry. He's basically saying, I'm sorry for everything. But it comes off slightly like reserved, because he doesn't like, I don't know. Do you get what I mean? When in that moment, it seems like he's like, I'm sorry. And then he kind of just goes off. It's like he is still processing a lot of things. I don't know, it's an interesting one.
I think I find it interesting because I don't think he knows how to wrangle it in yet.
Yeah.
The only thing, the best thing he can think to do is like, I can't control this. I just need to go.
Yeah.
I need to remove myself from the situation and let you guys just do what you're doing. I can't be an adult yet.
It's good. It's just good.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like, as soon as he starts thinking like that, his life starts improving, and it's like, there you go. That's you started thinking of other people as people rather than things that can possibly hurt you down the line.
Mm,
Like,
yeah.
I was really impressed with this. I really enjoyed it. Oh, fucking hell.
You look like your nose is bleeding, dude.
No,
Or
I've
is
just
it
been
just
rubbing
sore?
it.
Oh, okay.
Hey, I think it's getting better.
That's good.
Yeah.
Maybe it learned how to think about things in a way that's not just about itself.
Maybe. Just needs to get all the immaturity out of it. Honestly, I wish it'd say sorry and fuck off somewhere else. If I didn't have a nose, that'd be just fucking beautiful. Right. Do we have any more things we want to talk about to do with high fidelity? Emmanuel, your stance like no, your stance hasn't changed. That's fair. I realize it's a very personal thing that you've got with this. So no, I'm not expecting you to.
Yeah. Again,
change
I don't think it's a bad film. I think it's a well-made film. I was probably expecting something else, and not something necessarily completely different. I think I thought it was going to be a little funnier for me personally. It had its funny moments, but because I was so pissed off, I wasn't laughing. I was just getting more and more pissed off instead of laughing because it's like it's a it's a kind of romantic comedy.
Yeah,
Like,
in its own way, yeah.
yes, it's hard to term it. But yeah, I guess I expected it to be more of a film where he went through a lot of breakups, but in it he was actually a good guy. He wasn't a dick. He was pretty much a nice guy, but maybe made some genuine errors, and maybe he had some really bad relationships or bad women in his life, and he had kind of come to terms with that and realized like he's worth so much more or something. I think I was expecting something more like that. I wasn't expecting to have this guy and have to watch him for the whole film. It's like, oh man, oh man.
But speaking of rom-coms, though, far and away better and like a moral standing than About Time is.
Yeah.
oh,
100%.
there are plenty of rom-coms I've enjoyed more.
To say what you want about John Cusack, but he's not keeping anyone hostage without their knowledge.
I'm sure he would have at the start, given the chance, but I don't think he would have at the end.
I mean, we both agree on that point. So about
But even then, I think the film would go. Now, John, that was a bit.
Yeah, that's the crucial difference. To be fair, because I do think he would, given the chance at the start. But About Time when isn't this guy sweet for doing that? And it's like no. Whereas I think High Fidelity would have had everyone going, "You shouldn't be doing this, you asshole."
Yeah. Saying that a film where you have someone who you have like multiple guys or boys who are in it for like the wrong reasons or doing things for the wrong reasons or kind of dicks and stuff, but it annoys me much less. It's 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh yeah.
Which if have you all seen it?
A long time ago.
I've eternally seen first half of it because my English teacher used to put it on as like a thing for Shakespeare, but we never actually got to see the second half. So I know exactly the first hour, but the next half an hour is just a mystery to me.
Oh man. Well, yeah, the Shakespeare obviously is an adaptation of I can't remember what is it. It's Haman and Shrew.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like how they do that so much better than Romeo and Juliet. I don't know what the crap that guy was doing. My wife showed that to me the other day, and I was just like, I did not enjoy that one bit. This was so bad.
Maybe
Anyway,
I have to rethink picking West Side Story.
no. I actually like
Oh,
the version of which West Side Story? The old one or the new one?
No, I actually prefer the new one.
I haven't seen the new one, so I have no comments on it. I
Well-
They
actually
change a couple of little things that I think make it morally better.
if
okay.
anyone was going to pick Romeo and Juliet, I've got some bad news for you.
Yeah, I actually like the original kind of film adaptation of West Side Story. Yeah, it has been a long time, but I did enjoy most of it. What I saw, it's like, yeah, it's okay. But yeah, not bad sermons, whatever. What it made sense in Moulin Rouge and was great. Not for Romeo and Juliet. I don't know what the crap he was thinking. I actually think I know what he was thinking, but it was hard. It did not work. No, it's so bad. Anyway, 10 Things I Hate About You. I thought similar kind of is very different, but vaguely similar about character development in a different kind of way. But I like that. But anyway, good film. Yeah, whatever. Well made.
I'm surprised we went the whole thing without mentioning Don John.
Did I mention what?
Don John.
Oh, I thought you said Dunville. I was like, what's
Just-
Dunville?
That's the reason we didn't mention it, because we don't know what the fuck it is.
It's so far removed from this film. This guy was not a porn addict.
Yeah, no, I meant the whole. You start off not liking him, and
To
then
be
he has
fair,
a big up and matures
he
and
did it.
stuff.
He did have an addiction to a fetish property.
Yeah, checkmate.
Oh, what records?
Yeah.
That's so much better. That's so whole. I don't.
I thought you meant misogyn.
What?
I thought you meant his fetish was misogyny.
I'm just addicted to misogynistic actions. I'm sorry.
That'd be an interesting one. Oh, dog. Yeah, don't no. This is so much better than Don John. Even though I hated it. This is so much better. Don John is just it's icky. It's like what am I watching? Why do I have to watch this? Yeah, it's different. Like yeah. No comparison. Sorry.
I
the-
think he's quite a Monkey King-esque sort of figure.
okay, let's not get into that. I like the musical references in this. I didn't really go too much into all of them, only a few of them. And when I like the kind of when Red Velvet Underground was playing, I was like, oh yeah, this is a good song.
Mm.
I did like the kind of references and stuff in there.
Yeah, the musical stuff is kind of why I watched it in the first place, to be honest. Because, like I said, like I'd literally just like stumbled across it on the Love Film catalog, and I was like, oh, that looks like it could be interesting. And yeah, I think
Yeah.
I vividly remember watching it because I got it. So that week in the post, I got High Fidelity and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, and I watched them both back to back. And Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist I really liked at the time as well, to be fair, but I haven't watched it since. But I just remember being like totally blown away by High Fidelity. And I think part of it is like it's that experiential thing of going like, oh yeah, he put Massive Attack in his top 5. That's cool. And I just certain things like that. Like it's
When I heard Massive Attack, I was like, yep. Pick. I mean, his top 5 is pretty good, to be honest. Anyway. Yeah. Oh yeah, kind of Like even the kind of song at the end that Stevie Wonder recorded, like the cover, it's interesting how around that time you had many different artists. You had multiple artists like coincidentally covering or working on covers of the same song, but that didn't know they were working like they were, because they did them all independently. It's just a nice coincidence.
It's kind of weird that that's faded out in music. Like there was a point where, like, I guess maybe it's the internet, to be fair, and things being more accessible, but there was a point where you'd hear like the same song sung by like 5 or 6 different artists. Like just like if you look back at like Motown stuff, there's so many things where you're like, I have no idea who the original artist of this is because they've all done it. Like
Go
But
into
if you,
the rabbit hole.
I was gonna say that, but if you're doing covers, is that really? Isn't this the whole conversation about copyright, right? Because is this? I know this is gonna sound silly, but like, is mixtaping piracy?
See, sorry.
Oh no, go on.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the conversation about piracy is getting really interesting now that you've got people like Disney Plus deleting stuff. Because the only way, because with like originals for streaming platforms, if that's the only place that they exist, then piracy is now becoming digital preservation. And it's like the conversation now is that if there's so I mean, in the past, it was always like, oh, if you pirate something, then you're taking money away from the studio, and if you're taking money away from the studio, then you're taking it away from the artists and all of that kind of stuff. But now it's like, well, if the studio is willing to just like cut their own material and cut the artists off anyway, then maybe there isn't a way to like ethically watch things. So maybe we should just pirate stuff because then it still exists.
What I would add to the conversation, this comes up a lot when I'm listening to podcasts in the tech community, and a good points come up similar to what you were saying, but legally, if you own the original thing and you want to share it with someone you know, even though it's a gray area, that's technically allowed. That's not like illegal piracy or whatnot. That's kind of the same of you lending someone a DVD or a cassette tape, except you're copying something you own already to someone else. Obviously, if you start then sharing that torrent to hundreds of people, that's piracy. You're not just sharing it to some friends or family. You are doing something that could impact sales. Now, if it's easily available to buy or rent, and you're just pirate, and then you're just downloaded for free, that's piracy. However, if it's incredibly difficult or not accessible in your country, then it becomes the legal gray area of this person didn't have a legal or ethical way, like you were saying, Rob, to buy this. And the person actually illegally downloading it, what they are doing is potentially giving that company free advertising, so that that company might actually start giving them an ethical way in that region to have some of their material, which sometimes if you go in a sociology study kind of way, sometimes pirating has actually helped some companies make more money, because some of the minority who were pirating were basically giving free kind of press in a way, or free like advertisement for this company. And then that helped their actually legit sales get higher because they were giving more positive stuff about them. So
But
It's
I
an
guess
interesting thing in it because that's what it always comes down to, is whether you're harming sales or not.
I mean,
And
I guess that's the reason why I said for the mixtape thing for this movie, especially because essentially a mixtape is just select songs from certain artists, but done in a different order, or like, it's like songs that are blended together. So technically, the tape is a mixture of songs that wouldn't typically be blended together. And I'm saying this is the tape that is, Emmanuel's tape or Simon's tape or whoever's tape, you know what I mean? And it's like that tape is unique only to me because I'm the only person who made this particular blend of songs fit this particular blend of ways. So I don't know if that's, and he wasn't, he was sharing it because he was physically sharing it like to the girl and whoever, right? And his mixtape for Laura. But I was thinking, is that piracy? I'm not sure. I mean, that particular case, I was like, I wasn't sure.
I think it's one of those things where, like, if you asked a musician, they would say, like, absolutely, that's something you should do because that's part of, like, the culture of being a music fan. But if you asked a company who owned a major studio who had no idea what music is to people, they would say, how dare you do such a thing to our hard-earned profits.
Yes.
Saying that reminds me of the whole kind of famous case with Dr. Dre and the drummer from Metallica. Go back to that versus
Can I just say we went the whole call and we got to the end for Emmanuel to change the subject. Well done, everybody. We did it.
But sorry, but that whole court case was over like before Spotify and stuff started actually giving stuff like royalties and stuff to artists. They were like, we're just sharing it to people. It's like, no, you're not. There's no fucking choice. Either you ask us and we say you pay, or you don't get our music. And that set another precedence even for sharing music online for like companies. And we ended up eventually with Spotify after many things. There's another interesting one. Spotify is, man. Anyway, I'm not going into that rabbit hole.
So my mind went into what's your top 5 favorite music sharing websites, I guess. And I was just like, it went full circle for me for a second. LimeWire. Oh, I mean, no, not LimeWire. That's not legal, is it?
How the fuck old are you?
Old enough. Old enough.
LimeWire is like...
Fair enough. No, the thing is, LimeWire, it's not that we're old. It's just that it blew up a few years before you got the chance to actually be in that part of it blowing up. That was it, really.
I do feel like you've missed out on like essential internet trauma if you've never used LimeWire, because that was like piracy roulette. Like you'd download something that looked like it was what you wanted, and it'd turn out to be like an Ozzy Osbourne song for some reason.
I feel like
Ben.
I wanted number.
I feel like Ben, like him telling me about it just dissuaded me. I used it once. I got what I wanted. But after that, and hearing what Ben said and I see some other people, I was just like, you know what? I'm good. And then I never used
exe and you just get like this crazy virus that just like just destroys your computer.
What I tend to do until torrents became more stable, you had like VPNs and all sorts of other stuff like early on. Until that point, I started, I just went onto websites that you could just download the album or track from. And I was downloading a lot of anime soundtracks, to be honest, at the time, and film soundtracks. And people just had that on their servers online. It's like, yeah, you download it for free. It's like, cool. I can avoid LimeWire. I don't need this crap. And then eventually, I used torrents.
The thing that annoyed me the most about LimeWire is that sometimes if you downloaded a song, people would like edit the metadata on it so that it'd include like their tag. So like if you put it into like iTunes or whatever, like say you downloaded like I don't know, like This is the worst thing. Whenever you're talking about something like this, like I can't think of a single song now that I want to reference on.
Linkin Park, Breaking the Habit.
Yeah, so say you've like downloaded Linkin Park Breaking the Habit, and then like you put it in your iTunes, and it'd be something like Linkin Park, and then like it'd be like square brackets, and it'd be like Democracy Dude 7, or like something like that.
Yeah, oh, you're right. In the metadata, it was in the last part of it. We just play download 3 cool ringtones from some random guy from 1962. I don't know.
Yeah, you had that in torrents as well. Still to this day, like people advertising stuff. And I just ignored it. I was just like,
yeah,
okay, delete.
You could delete all that stuff. Like you just had every song, edit, delete, find, delete.
That was the problem. Like the way to edit it in iTunes used to be so clunky. Because like if it was like the song title, you'd have to like press edit, and then like you'd get like a dialogue box, and then 9 times out of 10 you'd edit the bit that you want, and then it'd be like, oh, but you haven't filled out this data, and it's like you were coping fine without it before you noticed.
Oh man, yeah, it got better.
I don't think it did because it was run by Apple, and
I was
therefore
waiting for you to say
it's
something.
absolutely fucking worthless and shit.
Do you know what?
But
Actually, oh sorry.
Well, better than Amazon.
There's actually something
A
really
lot of
worrying.
things.
Like now we're on the subject of metadata. Have you guys seen what HBO Max have done in America?
Oh, you mean about the creator thing? Like
Yeah,
notes?
so on the
Yeah.
credits of not on like the actual films obviously, but like on the credits on their platform, where it used to say writers, directors, actors or whatever, they've replaced it with just creators. So now you just get like a generic list of like whoever was on it under creators.
No, that sucks in terms of portfolio as well. To be like, oh, when are you doing this? You sure you did that? It doesn't say you did that.
You just created it. Was that what?
I did this.
You're a director or you're like a runner? What's going on?
Yeah, because like producers could be creators, right? But producers could just be like, it's a very different. It's the whole thing about what you do for a item is so generic. It's like going. It's like, technically speaking, we could be creators right now because we made this podcast. Yeah, we're creators of like media, and that's special, ain't it? But it's like, yeah, but because you've made it so generic sounding, you've made it like, that's fucking horrible. I can't imagine. That's
forcing people to basically troll through the credits.
I think it's really cynical as well, because I imagine one of the reasons that they've done it is that like, so let's say like Martin Scorsese, for example, like you go on Raging Bull and it says creators and Martin Scorsese's there, and obviously you know that he's directed it, and then later on you go to something like The Souvenir, for example, and then Martin Scorsese's name is under creators, and you go, oh cool, it's a Martin Scorsese film, and it's like, no, he's just an executive producer on this. He didn't do anything, he just funded it.
Is creators also part of actors as well?
Yeah, so like actors, writers, directors.
That's fucking stupid. That's so fucking stupid.
It is, yeah.
It's like having IMDb for a film, but then having no titles for what the person did.
Yeah, it's just literally the movie title, the summary, and everyone else in one bracket.
It's so bad.
I guess it'd be good for like if you're an extra in the film, right? Yeah, I helped. Like Emmanuel, because if you want to do it, Danielle is a creator on the film. Was it a Kingsman? Yeah, because she was an extra. Yeah, she's a creator because she was an extra on the film. That's how that fucking bullshit works now, isn't it? That's so.
And it's even worse when you think that like streaming has made it a thing that like the credits just don't exist anymore. It's just like you get 5 seconds and then we're gonna like recommend other stuff to you. Like
doing as soon as the credits roll, just like here's a pop-up for the next thing, or here's the autoplay for the next advert.
With that, even though I agree with you, and it's annoyingly aggressive in that sometimes some platforms make it hard, or you have to react quickly if you actually want to watch the credits.
Honestly,
Yeah.
I hate it so much, man. It's just like
But-
leave me alone. Like, let me unpackage what I've just seen while this nice song's playing. Like, stop
Mm.
trying to force me to watch something else.
But there's a lot of people who want that, who will either
Yeah.
be like pause and shut off as soon as the credits come on, or they will go to the next thing. And it's come about because the majority way of how people use the platform.
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
just like cinema. Like the majority of people, like outside of Marvel films, the majority of people are not staying to watch the credits.
I hate it so much,
This
man.
is
Like,
why we have anime credits. The counter to that, like Chainsaw Man, which has like a different fucking rock band playing a different sort of end credits for every fucking episode. So it changes. Like, oh, I have to watch the credits. These credits look fucking awesome because it's just like crazy art styles of an epic rock song. But the song changes for another rock band, so it's more like psychedelic, and it was like, okay, fucking. I mean, I have an extra like couple of minutes to just watch this. It's fucking awesome. That's the counterweight to fight. You go, yeah. You want to skip the credits? You got to fucking miss the sick beats and a little bit of the next episode. Next, you know. So it's like, all right, I'll say for you. I'll say watch the credits.
But I mean, that's just a nod to Japanese culture in general, to be honest. I feel like even if that wasn't there, most of them would watch the credits. Just as a kind of like, oh, it's just nice to kind of wind down from it. This is part of the whole package. You know, part of what the artist intended. I'm going to do this. So they just said, well, you're doing it anyway, so we'll just make it more entertaining for you, rather than trying to entice them in. It's like rewarding you for getting through it and staying through it at the end.
to be honest, that was one of the things that I liked about Pinocchio, because it was like obviously it's exclusive to a platform that does that, where it cuts the credits off. So it's just like, all right, we're gonna have a massive dance number right until the very end, so that the film lasts until the end. And yeah. But I find it so unsatisfying, man. Like if the credits cut off before the end for me, it's like when you're about to sneeze and someone says boo and the sneeze goes, and it's just like, well, now I can't finish what I started. Like,
I remember one time I think they were trialing something on Netflix. At one point it was really, really difficult, especially on the phone, to actually keep watching without it going to the next thing. I said, I really want to watch the credits. I literally had to it cut off. It went to, it forced me. I had to go back on it and fast forward it to the part that's past the part they cut off it, so I can watch.
man.
I was like, you're pissing me off. I'm really liking the music in this, and I actually want to see something in the credits. Can you just give me the freaking option? Like, look, have it there.
Yeah, but you've played into the game, Emmanuel. You've made it so that what runtime on that entire series has increased by a couple of minutes. So if they do that for every fucking viewer on Netflix, then they get that fucking like advertisement money. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's how it is. I mean, you laugh, but like, it's kind of true. You've made their watch times longer, and they can brag about it.
Well, that's the thing. Why should they cut off the credits when they've got like more watch time? It's like, make the credits interesting. Let people like have a breather and just be like, yeah, this is what we've just seen. Here's a great soundtrack or song, and this is so and so's name that you forgot about. And it's just like, even if you don't read every single name, you don't have to. That's not the point. It's there if you want to, and it's there if you need to. And it's like, you just want to have like a little breather, and it's like you don't want some random pop-up for something else to play immediately. It's because like, you would watch a film straight after the first film's ended. It's like you need a break. You need to pause.
Even though sorry, man.
Oh, sorry, carry on.
No, I was just gonna say, like, that was the one thing, like, even though I didn't like Tar very much, the one thing that I liked was they did the credits at the start, and then it's just like, yeah,
they did indeed. That was a
Which
proper
film?
Tar.
Don't know. Cool. That's interesting. Saying I like the film that actually, no, it was Antichrist. Did they roll up the opposite way?
They did, yeah. It was that way.
Oh god, yeah, that was really disorientating.
That was to be in the cinema, that again, I was just like, what the crap did I just watch? This is a messed up, effed up film. Anyway, but at the end of the day, this is kind of rolls back into High Fidelity. We are the appreciators in the minority who would like this, but the majority wouldn't. And the majority might like they could be either watching it similar to a Pluto TV kind of thing where they just want the next episode to come in while they're doing stuff in the background, or they just want to skip to the next interesting thing because like, oh, there's something else that's similar to this. Cool. They're not interested in the credits. They're interested in more entertainment. It's just more consumption, and that's unfortunately the culture that we're in the moment. Consumption, overconsumption, and all sorts of other stuff. And there's a really great rap song about a lot of stuff that recently. If you ever listen to it, there's a guy from BTS called Sugar, or his name is called Auguste. He made a song called Hegem. It does a lot of social commentary on a lot of stuff in society at the moment, which is pretty cool. I always like social commentary and rap music anyway. I think you might appreciate it, Rob. I might actually send it to you.
Yeah, do man.
It's good.
Very good, yes. So, wait, whose next film is it?
Alec.
Alec. What's your next film? What's
Who?
your pick? What's your pick?
What?
What's your
Before he
pick?
sleeps.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought we were talking about everything else in the world.
We were,
Yeah,
but now, sorry,
which includes you, Alec.
to say actually, sorry. No, okay, good. Yes,
What?
what's your pick? Alec?
Okay, bye.
Everyone held their peace. So
Oh, the pizza, yeah.
I had pizza earlier. It's really nice, actually.
Yeah, I had pizza today as
Same.
well.
We had a pizza day today.
Yeah, it's really nice from Waitrose. I do recommend it.
Dr. Udgar.
Top 5 pizzas. Okay.
No. All right, cool. No, sorry. But before Alec just loses all will to live,
No,
and leaves
I ain't going anywhere. Well, fuck it.
cool.
Let's talk about it.
I
What is your pizza? I mean, your pick.
I walked out the door and came back into the door film club after watching this film. Anyway, nah, sorry. What's your film, Alec?
Film? My film is well. Whew. It's a big choice picking a film.
Remember?
But I don't know. I had it a minute ago, but then something happened.
Oh, are you reconsidering?
Oh,
No,
No.
no,
it's just forgotten.
it just seems so long ago since I had it in my head. I don't know.
I hope it's good. If you can't remember it, do I want to watch?
Well, interestingly, that's actually the theme. Actually, the theme of the film that I'm gonna pick. It's called The Motherfucker, or if you will, The Father. It's available on Netflix.
Interesting. Okay.
Starring Anthony Hopkins.
Starring Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
If
Ah.
Anthony Hopkins is not in your film, you've picked the wrong motherfucker.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
father.
The King of Hops.
An interesting fact about this one is that you know when we were talking about having like a special guest round.
Mm.
So I asked my mum what she would pick if she was a special guest, and she said this.
Mm.
I
Oh,
am Rob's mum.
Yeah. Your mom, Rob.
And I want to ask a question. I was talking to Mr. Simon about this earlier.
Who's Mr. Simon?
There's a potential future pick I have, which is I think most people except maybe Pat, might actually really enjoy, or
Movie.
really like or appreciate. Um, Originally, it was a TV series, but it got made into or formatted into an actual 2-hour movie. So you can actually watch it as a movie from start to finish. Like they released it in both forms. So would it be okay to pick that in its movie form as a pick, or would it not count because it also exists split up?
No,
Well,
to be fair, you did that with the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo as
yeah,
well.
that counts. That was a TV series.
Yeah, that,
Yes,
yeah.
yeah. And you had the choice. You could have watched it on there. I forgot about that because yeah, that existed as both.
Wait, the Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is a TV series?
Yeah,
Oh.
they converted it into to Ben's favorite format.
Yeah, it was a
Really?
miniseries. The original trilogy became a 6-part series.
Okay, I might have to look for that miniseries then.
It's on
Okay.
iPlayer if it's still on there.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man, iPlay is a bit iffy, anyways.
Sure. Thanks. That's great. I
It's
might.
out there.
Yeah, I've got 3. Is it 3? I've got 1. Crap! I forgot another film I was gonna pick.
Is this? Are you planning to choose that for Goat Round?
No.
Or just this round?
No.
Oh,
I know what I'm gonna pick for my next film, but the next 2 picks after that, there's Goat Round, which I have a potential, which I've talked to Rob about, but he doesn't know exactly which one. And then there's that one I've talked to you about, which is another potential after that.
Okay.
There's a
Okay.
4th well, but like I was saying to Rob, I have to actually check if I think you can get it, the film I was talking about, the indie film. But it's expensive to rent, so I don't really want to put people through that. It's like £5 instead of like £3 something. And it's like
we can sort it out by alternative means.
yes. But that's actually one I would need to watch first because I'm not sure about it. All the rest I'm pretty sure about except Goat Round because I'm still up in the air about that. That's just like we talked about before. That's a hard one.
It is
One
a
of the
hard one, yeah.
greatest
And
of all time subjectively.
it's potentially being made harder actually because I don't know if you saw earlier that at the end of I don't know if it's this month or next month, but basically soon all of the Studio Ghibli films are leaving streaming.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
He said,
To get more money.
Yeah, I don't know. I know in America they're going to HBO Max, but we haven't really got an equivalent to that yet. So
Oh, man.
Probably
And
Sky.
possibly, yeah, possibly.
and it's so hard to try and trick them with VPNs and stuff these days. They tend to be really smart around it.
Mm.
Oh, that's gonna force people again to torrent.
Yeah.
I
If
mean,
they
I already have all like fucking the DVDs. I fucking think I have like Kiki's delivery service on my but or like fucking VHS, you know. So it's
Oh,
like
do you really?
I think it's like in my attic somewhere. I probably have to if I really wanted to search for it, I probably could. But it's like I remember watching that since I was like little Simon.
Mm.
So it's like, you know, it's like I've watched that film fucking so many times.
I hope
when
they
I was a little Simon.
When I was a little Simon.
Very nice.
hope they don't take stuff like that off of like Apple TV and stuff. Like places where you can rent it or buy it digitally because
I hope they take everything off Apple TV because it's
because
fucking shit.
shush, Alex. Like me, I don't have a VHS player. I don't have a DVD player. I don't have a Blu-ray player. My Xbox disc drive don't work. I have
No, but they're
no
not.
any physical media. My computer also can't play any physical media really. I could probably do something about that, but it wouldn't be the easiest. Point is, like, I'm firmly in the digital age. Give me a digital way to get this. If I can't, you're making it really difficult for me. though I probably could do something about my computer, but then I can't. It's unless I hook the computer up to a TV, which my wife would just not really want. Um, then I can't watch any DVDs, and not this is not Blu-rays. I can't watch any DVDs on the TV. I'd have to watch it on the computer, which isn't the most comfortable experience.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just checked, right? So do you guys know Ghibliotech?
Yeah. Or
Yeah, so
think so.
they're really cool. Like you should look into them because they write a lot of books about Ghibli, and yeah, they're really cool. But they said that so yeah, so all of the Studio Ghibli stuff on Netflix is coming off on the 31st. So there's like 3 days left of it, and most of them you can't even rent anywhere else.
Oh right.
Let
Yeah,
me just
because I always thought it's because Ghibli was like owned, or I mean like co-sponsored by like Disney, because a lot of like Disney stuff gets of Disney actors and Disney like personalities get doing Studio Ghibli stuff. So I was thinking
Yeah.
maybe it's like a co-ownership or like
Well, I think-
licensing deal.
I think Disney is Studio Ghibli's like Western distributor, right? Because I know my Studio Ghibli Blu-rays. If you look at like the liner notes and stuff, they're all distributed by Disney.
yeah. I hope it's a case where they're gearing to do maybe their own streaming service.
Yeah,
Or-
that would work. Yeah.
I don't think that would work.
I these days I tend to search all the films that we're watching on Plex, and Plex will tell me absolutely every single place you can watch something or buy something from, like without fail. Because sometimes Google will miss a few sources, a source or two, whereas Plex will tell me of all of them. But My Neighbor Totoro, like you said, only available on Netflix and
Yeah.
nowhere. Like
Is
you
it not
can't
on
or buy.
Crunchyroll? Is it not on Crunchyroll at all as well? Because it is an anime, right? So it could be on
Yeah.
Crunchyroll.
Check.
The website I use is called Just Watch, and they do have Crunchyroll on their list. But if you look at like My Neighbor Totoro, for example,
It's not on there.
Yeah.
It's Totoro.
so it's literally just showing Netflix, Netflix Free, and Netflix Kids.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
just checked as well, Simon, on the app itself, because I had just finished watching like what I told you about, and yeah, it's not available on Crunchyroll.
Right. Because like
I
what
want.
you because I
What's
was
the
gonna
other
say
one with Crunchyroll actually? Funimation.
yeah, but
Yeah,
but,
Funimation. This is really sad for me though, right? Because I was going to pick a Studio Ghibli film this week, and then I decided on this, but I didn't realize it was such a time pressured thing.
yeah, because
I mean,
mean,
you can.
like-
We can make a way.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'll still
yeah.
pick it, and we'll do it by alternative means. But but yeah,
Don't worry. I'll buy the DVD on Amazon. I'll send it to you guys. It'll be fine. I'll buy you each this DVD. That's how we're gonna do it.
Or even a manual. He can't
Actually,
I'll buy him a fucking DVD player. It'll be fine. I'll buy. He'll come to my house. We'll watch it together. It'll be fine.
to be
And
fair, it would be quite a fun pick to watch together. The one that I was going to do.
Because like in all seriousness, I had a Studio Ghibli film for like a double bill idea, but I was like, I hope. I just like if it's all off Netflix, and like maybe I can't even find it on Amazon, I'll be so upset, and I'm like, oh, it sucks. But like that's a whole other conversation in itself. I guess we'll just have to do it by buying a DVD or alternative means. But it's like
I'm looking forward to you guys seeing the one that I was going to pick. It's a bit. I'll tell you which one it is, Simon, because you might have seen it, but you might not. I don't
I
know.
probably if it's like any of the. Oh yeah, I've definitely watched that. Yeah,
Nice.
yeah.
Also,
That's,
Simon, yeah, like I was checking, it's not on Funimation either.
oh, because like because you were saying about them maybe trying to open up their own like little studio, but like they don't have that many movies, and like unless they work together with like other anime studios to make their own like streaming service, it's not going to work out for them because the licensing for like Funimation shows from like and like not just Funimation actually, just like
Mm.
because Crunchyroll has that distribution in the West. So if they did the stuff with Studio Ghibli, because Studio Ghibli works with Disney and like other sort of Western studios, it's a whole it'll be a whole fucking mess to do. It wouldn't work out for them really, I guess, because like you would have to make if they made like a licensed online streaming service which you could pay for, like that has everything in animes, like not just like the little kiddie shows, but like serious fucking balls to the wall gore adult animes, like proper cool stuff. Like I'm talking like berserks and all that shit, right? I would fully fucking pay for that. Like, but it doesn't exist because no one will goddamn market or pay for that studio because no one has the kahunas to buy fucking Berserk or make a good Berserk anymore because everything else is just shit. So shit.
For context, Rob, or for context, everyone, like Berserk is a very traumatic, dark anime. That's all I'll leave it. It's a great story by a legendary kind of mangaka.
Oh yeah, he's passed away, isn't he?
Yeah, unfortunately. Forgot about that. But yeah, it is deep.
It's deep. There's the movie version as well. Fuck, I could always choose the Berserk movie.
You could.
Oh, but that's that's a bit rough as well. But it's so fucking cool.
It's very good. It's a very serious. It talks about some serious issues. It's got some great character development and stuff. But yeah, it is not a light subject.
Yeah, those subjects. Oh. Anyways, so with Father, but with Anthony Hopkins on Netflix. Okay, that's what was.
Father is happening.
I think I'm gonna find this terrifying. I'm really. Yeah.
Ooh, the father of the bride.
No.
Anyway, I'm gonna head off, guys. I need to go. So
yeah, I should as well. Really.
have a good night.
Oh yes, me too. All right, take care.
Take care.
See you
Bye,
in a bit,
everybody.
guys. I enjoyed that call a lot. I'm sorry that it touched a nerve, Emmanuel.
Okay.
Okay.
See you guys in a bit.